Hey YouTube, Kevin Cleary with a knife video. Got a nice little blade for you today, and it's one of those that I've been picking up. As you know, I've been telling you, I like to carry two blades. I'll sometimes carry a large folder and a small folder. I'll carry a fixed blade and a small folder. Sometimes I carry a large folder and a small fixed blade. But so because of those pairings, I've been picking up and adding to the collection some smaller folders that work well in that situation where they're small, they're light. I can add them and carry them sort of as whether you call this primary or secondary depends on how you think about your knives. For me, my smaller knife is sort of a secondary. It's for those menial tasks that don't mean much. If I had something really serious to do, I'd take out the larger one, okay? So, this knife, the 531 Purdue, is, there we go, the lighting's gonna work better now. The 531 Purdue, there is a little bit of cloud cover, guys, and it's coming in the window, so if the lighting goes up and down a little, you're gonna have to bear with me on that. So 531 Purdue is one of those great knives, very, very lightweight, but very, very functional, and so it works really well as a pairing with something larger, either a large fixed blade or a large folder. For me, this is not a primary carry knife, but I'm sure for lots of you guys watching who, you don't like to carry a large knife, or you're not that, you just want a nice pocket knife, this is a very good option. It's incredibly lightweight and very utilitarian as well, and that's always a good combination, right? It's easy to carry and it's useful. Hey, can't lose. So, what are the specifics on this? Well, the knife weighs, and this is probably the thing that's going to draw most people to this knife, okay? The size and weight. So the weight on this is 2.1 ounces. That's crazy, especially considering it's over 7 inches. So you got 7 3/8 inches overall. 3 3/16 inch blade, 4 3/16 inch handle, and just a little over a 1/4 inch thick. It's about almost 3/8 of an inch thick, but very, very thin. This carries like a feather. You literally can throw this in a pocket and forget about it. Really forget about it. So if you're gonna buy one, make sure you don't throw this thing through the laundry or something, because it literally disappears in your pocket, and you could easily take your pants and you could fold them up and put them in your dresser and never notice that this knife is in your pocket. Okay, so it's that lightweight and that easy to carry, which is really cool. Let's do a couple of quick comparisons here. Another Benchmade that probably begs comparison is the Benchmade 943. Now there's a whole extra ounce here, and really you're not getting much more in terms of blade length or cutting power, and I would say that same thing applies to the 943. Maybe a little more durable because of the aluminum, but G10 is pretty strong, so I don't think this is sacrificing a whole lot in terms of strength. Now, I don't think it's meant to go and chop down a tree or start batoning with it or anything like that. Probably not a good plan, but I'm not too worried about the strength of this knife. A couple other comparisons for you, more for reference. This is a knife that I use in a similar role. This is the Brous Blades Silent Soldier Flipper. You can see how those two compare there. And one more similar size or similar roll knife. This is the Spyderco Persistence. So one step down from the Tenacious. Again, a very small knife for the person who wants something very lightweight and very maybe sheeple friendly. Again, quite a bit heavier. You're over 3 ounces with this, and that 2.1 ounce weight is exceptional. Okay, so of course you are paying a little bit for that, but here's the thing I want to say before I kind of move on and stop doing comparisons. Oh yeah, here's what I would often carry this with. This is my Zero Tolerance 0200, one of my favorite ZTs, of course, and you can see how those compare. I would consider this a full-size folder, and I would consider this a small folder. Now, let me say this. There are a lot of 2-ounce knives or knives that land around 2 ounces, but very few of them are over 7 inches, and very few are giving you over 3 inches of blade length and of course cutting edge. So that's where this knife really, really shines, is the ratio of how much cutting edge you get and how much utility, how much usefulness you get for an extremely lightweight package. All right, so let's zoom in and talk about some of the specifics that you do get. And again, we'll continue to talk about some really positive things. There will be a couple of drawbacks as we go along. So here we go. Give you a little bit of a closer look at this blade. So the blade on this, as I said, is 3 3/16. You do get 3 1/8 inches of cutting edge, which is nice. This is a fairly high flat grind, And it's a spear point blade, and what they kind of did away with the more dagger style blade grind that came on the 530 in favor of this much more utilitarian, or really just much more useful flat grind. And you guys know we've talked about flat grinds many times on the channel. It's just a really useful way to grind a blade that allows it to do kind of everything and anything. All right. So extremely good slicer, great edge geometry, just a really useful blade. Takes a really nice edge, and 154 cm is good steel, so it's going to hold that edge very nicely for you as well. And this will shave hair super easily right now, and it wasn't hard to get it to that point, and it's not hard to kind of keep it there. All right. You can see this nice little swedge on top, which is very attractive and kind of adds to, or adds to the attractiveness of this drop point blade. It's Benchmade, I don't know, their finish, when they do a satin finish, it almost looks like a light stone wash, but it's a really light stone wash. So it's sort of like a satin finish that's been beat up a bit. And that's actually kind of nice because it doesn't show wear very much at all. All right, let's see. I don't think there's anything else you probably need to know about the blade. Oh yes. This I will point out because it is a success. You can see here where my index finger is at the little cutout for sharpening, and it is sharpened right to the very bitter end, which is perfect. The plunge grind is done exactly right, so you get all the cutting edge that you're kind of entitled to with this blade length and style. All right, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit and talk about lockup and deployment. It's an axis lock, so all of the things that you come to expect from an axis lock you're getting here, with one little drawback, and it's not the end of the world, but because this knife is so lightweight, it doesn't drop easily. Like, you can't just flick it closed. And the reason you can't flick it closed is there's literally no mass there to flick, okay? It just is so lightweight that, yeah, there you go, I can do it, but it's not easy. It's not like, some of the other Benchmades that all of us are used to, like the Griptilian or even the 943 over there. The blade is so lightweight that when you try to flick it closed, there's not a lot of inertia that can be created, okay? Otherwise, though, it's an axis lock, okay? So it's smooth, it's fast, it's functional, it's strong, all of the stuff we normally come to expect from an axis lock. As we move into the handle, no blade play up and down or side to side, so that's one cool thing. You get a very lightweight, very slight knife like this. Sometimes there's some weakness, some blade play, not so with the 531. And of course, you could get a little blade play if you loosened off this pivot, which is just a Torx screw. Or you could, if you had some blade play from side to side, you could tighten that up and get rid of it, okay? So anyway, moving on to the rest of the handle, okay, there are sort of steel inserts here that go to about this point in the knife, and essentially they just allow enough steel material for the axis lock to work properly. The rest of the handle is just G10. Got a couple of standoffs here at the back and the pivot, and that's about all there is. Otherwise, it's fully open construction, which is really nice for cleaning the knife out. And you can look in there, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I'll try to show you. You can look in there and see the steel sort of housing or steel components that make up the axis lock. Now, along with that comes the steel here that goes up to the back, and they did put some jimping here, but it's like a lot of Benchmades that do this. I don't know why they kind of even bother, because the jimping is almost completely ineffective. I guess it's adding a very little bit, but not much at all. So that's some of the details here. Otherwise, the handle is quite comfortable for its size, okay? Obviously, something like this with a full grip in your hand, very filling, nice palm swell, this is obviously much more comfortable. But when you go to a very small knife, you don't expect it to be very hand filling, and so you have to say, is it comfortable for a small knife? And it is. It's actually fairly well done. The edges are a little bit square, but because it's G10, they're kind of soft. And Benchmade G10 I find to be a little more rubbery than other companies you may be familiar with. If you feel cold steel or even Spyderco G10, it's very, very hard. Benchmade seems to almost have a little bit of cushion or a little bit of stickiness to it, more like what you'd expect from a rubber handle. Okay, probably that just is a result of the way the composition, the ratio of whatever they're using in here as whatever they're using to add like the plastic part or the rubberized part of the G10 too. So moving on with life, I don't want to belabor that point much. There is a lanyard hole. It's quite small. You could probably get paracord through if you really worked at it. The clip is repositionable to left side, right side, tip up. And one recommendation I would make, and this is probably going to be happening for me with this knife, although I will say it still carries really easily, so it's not absolutely necessary. This has the typical Benchmade penis clip, okay? So I think they call it a split arrow clip technically. But it would benefit from the deep carry clip like the one that comes on the 943. This clip would work really well on this, and they are compatible. So that would be a nice option, and you can call Benchmade and request a clip and they'll send one out to you. Now, everything else, in terms of just overall impressions, let's back out here. In terms of overall impressions, this knife is really good. You know, you think you have a lot of utility in a very light package, which is a win. You know, if that's one of the things those of us who carry stuff look for is how much work can I get done? How useful is this item? And how much does it weigh? You know, everyone knows a full set of wrenches would be very useful. You get lots of work done with it, but no one carries that because it's just too much. And so when you have a knife like this that can get a lot of stuff done, a lot of cutting tasks done, and it weighs literally next to nothing, wow, really, really tough to beat. Okay, so that's my overall take on the Benchmade 531. Now the only sort of drawback, the only limitation that I would put on this knife is that for me, it is not my primary knife. Okay, I feel like if I'm carrying this, I want to have something like this along with it. Okay, now probably many of you watching won't feel that way, and if you already, if your normal EDC is like is a 940, 943, or maybe it's one of the small, you know, something small from the Tenacious lineup or from Spyderco lineup or from the rest of the Spyderco lineup, you know, this knife would be extremely attractive to you because you're getting all the utility of a lot of those knives I just showed you or just mentioned, but you're getting it in an extremely lightweight package. All right, so there you go, guys. That's my take on the Benchmade 531 Purdue. Great little blade, very lightweight EDC. We'll talk to you later.